Next week on The Young and the Restless, Nick gets out of the locked room, but he is in serious need of help. Here's a look ahead at the episodes we'll see from July 28th to Friday, August 1st, 2025. On The Young and the Restless, trouble in the French Riviera takes a dangerous turn next week. Carter entrapped himself when he slipped up in front of Victor and Chance and said he knew that the bloody knife was hidden under Nick's bathroom sink in his bedroom train car. Kane would never suspect Carter of doing anything wrong, especially not murder. But Carter feels overly indebted to Kane and would do anything to make him happy. Has he gone too far? And was Kane the target? Next week, Kane wants answers from Carter, but he is most likely not going to like what he hears. Before he knows it, Carter becomes panicked and holds Lily at gunpoint in front of Kane and Chance. He begs Carter not to make things worse for himself. "How could I make it worse?" Carter cries, "It was all for you, and now you want to lock me up." Carter holds Lily hostage and plans to use her as his ticket out of the estate. Fans will be blown away by what happens at the Dumas estate. In a stunning turn of events, the lives of the guests from Genoa City are about to be changed forever. After a major crisis, Kane retreats to his office and Amanda joins him. She isn't sure she did the right thing or made the correct decisions and begins to second-guess herself. "No, you made the right decision," Kane relents. "The authorities needed to be brought in. They're still here?" Amanda tells him that the police are just wrapping up and the bodies will be taken to the coroner. "But the case is pretty much closed, so you're in the clear," she adds. "Am I?" Kane asks gravely. Meanwhile, in the main salon car of the train, Victor's cell phone begins to make noises as his messages finally flood in. Sharon, Nikki, and Sally are excited as they are all getting messages and realize that their cell service has been turned back on. Victor surmises that Kane has realized that he is lost. "Hello everyone! Welcome back to my channel, Pulse Canvas. It's me, Julie here. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Keep watching. So let's dive into today's video. The Young and the Restless recap for Monday, July 28th, reveals that Chance Chancellor will die after a gunshot wound, and then Carter will take his own life. While Kane Ashby is pushing for Carter's murder confession, the security guard who was holding Nick Newman and Sharon Newman captive will come running over to say they've escaped. When a nearby Victor Newman hears that Nick's been injured, he'll leave Chance to deal with the Carter situation. Kane will once again push Carter to tell him the whole truth about Damian Kane's death, so Carter will eventually flash back to every step of the plan. Although Carter will expect Kane to help him sneak out of the country and start over, he'll fume when Chance appears. Carter will realize this was a trap and that Kane actually plans to let the cops arrest him. Kane will suggest maybe Amanda Sinclair will take his case, but that won't be good enough for Carter. When Lily Winters pops up, Carter will pull out a gun and use her as a human shield. Carter will rant about anticipating his boss's needs and doing all this for Kane, who was supposed to have a beautiful reunion with Lily. The goal was to eliminate Damian as an obstacle, but now he'll feel like Kane is betraying him. After Carter drags Lily away as his hostage and tries to exit through the maze, Chance and Kane will take off after him. Billy Abbott will eventually encounter Carter while he's still got Lily at gunpoint, so he'll block their path. Kane will approach Carter and offer himself as a hostage instead, so he'll convince Carter to let Lily go. Once Carter's gun is on Kane, Lily will cry out when it becomes clear that Carter plans to kill him. That's when Chance will dive in between Carter and Kane. It'll lead to Chance and Carter struggling over the gun, which will go off. Chance will take a bullet and collapse as everyone frantically works to help him. However, Chance will know it's too late and will die on the spot. A gunshot will ring out nearby as Carter takes his own life, so that'll finally end the bloodbath in Nice. Next on Monday's Y&R episode, Lauren Baldwin will once again push Nikki Newman not to fall into this trap of signing away Chancellor. Nikki will finally demand to see Nick before they move ahead with the deal. Amanda will take Nikki and Lauren to the room where Nick and Sharon were previously held hostage, so Nikki will flip out over all the blood on the floor. On the train, Sally Spectra will decide to hike down a bit and see how close the tracks are to being ready. In the end, Sally will find out that the workers are leaving since the tracks were done a couple days ago. Sharon will stay by Nick's side as he continues to deal with his injury. At one point, Nick will push Sharon to lean in closer and will surprise her with a kiss. Once Victor makes it on the train, he'll get updates on what happened to Nick and will make it clear that Kane's going to pay. Nikki will also rush to Nick's side just before the cell service gets turned back on. Sharon will get in touch with Adam Newman and announce that he's sending help for Nick, so a helicopter will be heard moments later. Amanda will call the police to Kane's estate and eventually react to the new fatalities. Since Amanda will know that Kane never meant for any of this to happen, she'll comfort him a bit. As for Lily, she'll apologize to Kane for accusing him of murder. No matter how much he's changed, Lily won't think he's capable of that. Kane will argue that he hasn't really changed all that much, since he's still the man who loves her. Despite the enemies he's made and the new challenges he's facing, Kane will still plan on returning to Genoa City and will refuse to give up on Lily. After Jack Abbott and Diane Jenkins, Abbott learn everything that's happened. Jack will lash out at Kane for playing God with their lives. Jack will worry since Chance's death is going to destroy Nina Webster and Jill Abbott. Phyllis Summers will find out about Chance and Carter's fatal outcomes, so she'll assume Billy doesn't want to partner up with Kane and go after Chancellor anymore. However, Billy will be more determined than ever to get Chancellor back out of respect for Chance's memory. The Young and the Restless, spoilers for Tuesday, July 29th, reveal that Lily Winters will be the one to tell Nate Hastings that Damian Kane is dead. Kyle Abbott and Audra Charles will also enter the danger zone, so let's talk about what's coming up on the CBS soap. Now that all the chaos in Nice has turned even more fatal, Kane Ashby will face plenty of backlash. There'll be people lining up to blame Kane for creating a situation that cost Damian and Chance Chancellor their lives. Of course, Carter will be dead too, following a self-inflicted gunshot wound, so Amanda Sinclair will handle everything with the authorities and make sure the bodies are taken to the coroner's office. However, Billy Abbott and Phyllis Summers will become Kane's biggest defenders on Tuesday's Y&R episode. Kane never imagined all this bloodshed when he invited everyone to his estate for a party and the unveiling of his true identity. Likewise, Kane never knew what Carter was capable of, so Phyllis and Billy won't think it's fair for him to face such a hostile response. Naturally, Billy and Phyllis will have ulterior motives when it comes to playing for the Kane Defense Squad. It'll mostly be Billy and Phyllis's way of buttering Kane up for the Chancellor alliance they both still want. Over with Kyle and Audra, their feud will take a risky turn. Things are about to get dangerous somehow, so could Audra be right about Kyle wanting her deep down? There's a thin line between love and hate, so it's possible that an angry showdown could turn passionate. Then again, maybe the dangerous twist that's brewing will be more about Kyle and Audra discovering the latest carnage. Audra and Kyle could find themselves shaken up over the news that Chance and Carter are both deceased. Whatever the case, Lily will be the person who contacts Nate Hastings following cell service restoration. Nate will find out that Damian was murdered, so he'll be devastated, especially since he'll know how difficult this is going to be for Amy Lewis. The Young and the Restless spoilers say Nate will have a hard time wrapping his head around Damian's sudden demise, so stay tuned for updates on his reaction. Perhaps the oddest part of the whole sojourn to Nice, France, is that many of our favorites on The Young and the Restless have yet to see the inside of Kane's chateau. Maybe Nick and Sharon did, but we're guessing they were housed in a room in the chateau's basement. Maybe they should have read the invitation more carefully. But the residents of Genoa City have been restricted to wandering in the maze of shrubbery and their tiny train car cabins. And where on the luxurious grounds is that dumpy room that Nick and Sharon were forced to remain under house arrest? But there are more important things to worry about than folks seeing the inside of Kane's home. The story has taken a dangerous turn, with Kane making sure Nick and Sharon are confined. Does Kane think that Nick truly tried to keep him? And does he think that taking the law into his own hands will endear him to Victor, who controls the keys to Chancellor Industries, the company that Kane desperately wants? How's Lily going to take it when she finds out her ex is hurting her friends? If Kane has done all this to rewind Lily's heart, he's bungled it royally. Kane threw Amanda and his security team under a bus by claiming to Nikki that they were the ones who insisted Nick be arrested. If Kane expects to be taken seriously as a mogul alongside Jack and Victor, He's going to have to stand by his own decisions. Kane hardly got any points with Lily by being okay with Nick and Sharon being placed under house arrest. We don't understand why Nick and Sharon simply weren't confined to their train cabin. Nick being a suspect in Damien's death is a stretch at best. Why did they have to be taken to a musty, dusty room? Kane's security needs to be protecting him and not making enemies. We have to give the Y&R sound effects department credit, though. When Nick clocked his guard with a champagne bottle, we heard that impact. Ouch! But if there was ever a reason for Nate to go back into medicine, it's this. Every show needs a doctor on staff for emergencies like this. It's quite possible that something major could come out of Nick and Sharon being imprisoned. They just might realize that they belong together, and there are no guarantees in life. Or he might want to take up with Sally again, given how she stepped up. Time will tell. Major kudos to Michael Milor and Zuleika Silver for their performances as, respectively, Kyle and Audra for the showdown in Kyle's cabin. Maybe Audra truly is grieving for Damien, but she saw a chance to get intimate with Kyle, and she went for it. Sorry, Audra. Kyle was onto your scheme all along. The fallout from their cards being put on the table, or maybe in this case, Kyle's bed, was dynamic. Ditto regarding Kyle confronting Victor in front of Nikki, no less. Once Victor gets Nick to safety, he should truly reconsider giving Kyle a chance. The man has earned his place in Claire's heart. The showdown in Kyle's cabin is far from the end of the banter between the Jabot Cosmetics heir and the Vibrante founder. They ran into each other in the maze of shrubbery later in the week and threw down again. One of the pluses of so many characters being in France and getting lost in the shrubs, and there being so many different train cabins and shrubs to get lost among, is that the show's writers can mix and match characters. Surprise pairings can come about on a given day. For example, former lovers Billy and Phyllis caught up with each other. Michael had a reason to reconnect with Victor and put their differences aside for a moment. We're hoping that the Newmans, Abbotts, Devon, Michael, Lauren, Etrial have all learned a valuable lesson from this trip to France. Don't accept invitations from people you don't know. Don't go to an area that may not have cell service, and don't go anywhere without bodyguards. Nick called Sharon tough for tackling the lock that kept them prisoners. Nick's also a fairly tough person, given how well he tackled Kane's bodyguard. But it came at a steep price. Nick was hurt badly. We're glad to hear Jill's name be mentioned, and it's good that Kane invited her. The story would be richer if Jill were there, as Kane posed as her son for a while. It'd be nice to see Jill make a surprise appearance in this. As Kane's surrogate mother, she could probably get him to do away with all this intrigue and get his guests back to Genoa City. Kane wants to make a name for himself back in the United States. He needs to start making things happen and not hide behind others. It was curious that Jack and Diane saw Nick and Sharon being escorted away and didn't take more action. Yes, they knew something was wrong, and they were very concerned. But take action! Victor wasn't much better in terms of taking immediate action. Remember when Victor and the police stormed into a prison to rescue Nick when it was revealed that he was innocent in Matt Clark's attempted murder? Surely, Victor could take on Carter and make Carter show him where Nick was. Still, it's nice to see Victor take the psychological approach. He and Chance outwitted Carter. That's not easy because Carter wears glasses, and all assistants to billionaires who wear glasses are super smart. But Victor is smarter. Carter is showing extreme loyalty to Kane. Is he in love with him? Or does he just love him for rescuing him from a bad life? What was that life? Why didn't we learn more about Carter before we discovered he's likely Damien's killer? There's no way that Damien's killer was trying to strike Kane or anyone else with that knife throw. Damien Kane's shoulders were too broad, and his back muscles were too big. Carter may be good at throwing knives, but he didn't have any weapons on him when Kane and Victor were questioning him. Why didn't Victor just pick Carter up by the neck and demand that he be taken to his son? Kane passing off Nick's confinement onto Amanda and his security team isn't sitting well with us for lots of reasons. Kane's not coming off as an all-powerful mogul if he's so easily influenced. Why didn't we see Victor, Chance, Nikki, Jack, Diane, Devon, Lily, Abby, Phyllis, and whoever else is on the estate confront Kane and demand that Nick and Sharon be set free immediately? Like, yesterday! Phyllis is looking out for number one, but she has a big soft spot for Nick. She'd blast anyone to smithereens who harmed her video game partner and the father of their daughter, Summer. We're ready for Kane to stop talking in riddles. He's going to explain everything soon. Okay, when? His true plan will be revealed. What is it? All will be explained. Again, when? He told Nikki that his security team and his lawyer advised me to imprison Nick and Sharon, so he did it. That's not what happened. Why is he buying up all the real estate in Genoa City? How was using a fake name going to win Lily back? It probably won't. As the week wrapped up, we learned that Sally is far more resourceful than anyone realized. She used her experiences in the carnival world to administer extensive first aid to Nick. We're fine with injuries being tended to with a tea bag, a clean rag, and a bottle of alcohol. After all, medical miracles happen all the time on soaps. We're less sold on some of the miracle legal avenues that characters are going down. How could a document that Amanda had that exonerates Nick hold up if the case went to trial? How could it be enforced if it weren't real? How would a sale Nikki would make, Chancellor Industries in exchange for Nick, hold up if a judge reviewed it? Nikki could challenge it on the basis that Kane had essentially kidnapped Nick and held him against his will. Lawyers call it under duress. What's also a bit more difficult to swallow is the reason Kane thought he was in danger of losing his life, when it was his ex-employee, Damien, who should have been fearful for his life. Here is your weekly recap of The Young and the Restless for the episodes that aired July 21st through 25th, 2025. This week on The Young and the Restless, Kyle and Audra appeared to be about to make love, but he pulled back and accused her of attempting to seduce him at Victor's command. Audra swore Kyle had just caught her in a vulnerable moment, but he threatened to tell Victor that her plan had failed. Audra assured Victor that everything was going according to plan. Billy ended his partnership with Jack and appealed to Kane to invest in Abbott Communications. Phyllis suggested that she and Billy join forces to get what they wanted from Kane. Jack tearfully considered whether his love was holding Billy back, and he struggled with whether to let his brother go. Carter placed Nick and Sharon under house arrest, locking them in a storage room. Nick talked Sharon down when she suffered a panic attack. Nick and Sharon discovered a chest of memorabilia from a family that owned a French winery in the 1900s. Sharon eventually picked the lock to the door, but a security guard stopped her and Nick from escaping. Nick knocked the guard out, but he suffered a gash in his side during their brutal scuffle. Sharon panicked as she tried to stop Nick's bleeding, knowing they had no access to medical personnel. As Nick drifted in and out of consciousness, Sharon encouraged him to think about the future of their children. Sharon tracked down Billy, who enlisted Sally's help to treat Nick using first aid tricks she'd learned during her carnival days. Nick's condition improved under Sally's care. Unaware of Nick's injury, Nikki offered to give up Chancellor in exchange for her son's safe return and assurance that he wouldn't be charged with Damien's murder. Chance discovered discrepancies in Carter's account of his whereabouts on the night of Damien's murder. Carter pledged his devotion to Kane, but he was caught in yet another lie when Chance and Victor interrogated him. Chance and Victor suspected Carter had tried to frame Nick in order to protect Kane. Carter insisted to Amanda that Kane would never kill anyone. As Chance and Victor eavesdropped, Kane implored Carter to tell the truth about what had really happened the night Damien had been killed. The Young and the Restless Spoilers Weekly Update for July 28th, August 1st, tease Nate and Amy suffer tremendous heartbreak, Victor rallies the troops, and Tessa gets a helping hand from a friend. Monday, July 21st, 2025, episode number 1317. Nick and Sharon were placed under house arrest by Carter when Nick tried to leave the mountain after discovering that surveillance footage around Damien's murder had been erased, deepening his suspicion of Kane. Kyle confronted Audra after a heated kiss on the train, accusing her of using Damien's death as part of a scheme. Despite her denials, Kyle insisted she had failed and ended things. Meanwhile, Billy shocked Jack by walking away from their business deal over Abbott Communications, declaring he would find new investment, even suggesting Kane, rather than continue under Jack's control. Phyllis and Billy then aligned to clear Kane's name together. Tuesday, July 22nd, 2025. Episode number 133171. Audra claimed that Kyle was falling into her trap, insisting to Victor that he remained under her control, even as doubts about her allegiance began to surface. Meanwhile, Nikki confronted Kane in the gardens, sharply criticizing him for using Nick and Sharon as pawns, and warning she wouldn't tolerate further manipulation. Inside the holding room, Sharon suffered a panic attack after being locked up with Nick, reliving past trauma while Nick struggled to calm her and figure out why they'd been detained. Wednesday, July 23, 2025, episode number 13172. Carter's alibi crumbled under scrutiny, leaving Victor and Chance convinced he was protecting someone, possibly Kane, in Damien's murder investigation. Kyle informed Victor that Audra's plan had failed and declared his loyalty to Claire, rejecting any manipulation. Meanwhile, Sharon and Nick plotted an escape from the holding room, managing to pick the lock with a champagne bottle muesli and flee only to confront a security guard. In the ensuing struggle, Nick was gravely injured, forcing Sharon to call for help while Billy rushed to tend to him. Thursday, July 24, 2025, episode number 13173. Carter was caught in a lie by Victor and Chance, heightening suspicions that he might be covering for Kane, or even involved in Damien's murder. Kyle confronted Audra in the maze, bluntly rejecting her advances and declaring that her scheme had failed. Meanwhile, Jack wrestled with his growing concern over Billy's pursuit of Abbott Communications and seriously considered severing ties with him. Inside the holding room, Billy raced to his aid, only to realize Nick was badly bleeding and needed immediate medical attention in a tense, desperate moment. Friday, July 25, 2025, episode number 13174. Carter took fire when Kane interrupted Victor and Chance interrogating him, as Kane accused him of hiding the knife and pressed him to confess to Damien's murder. Nikki, desperate to free Nick, shocked Lauren by offering to surrender Chancellor in exchange for his release. Amanda already had the papers and an affidavit ready. Meanwhile, in the holding room, Nick's condition worsened after sustaining a deep wound. Sharon and Billy struggled to support him until Billy fetched Sally, whose resourceful Carney-style first aid of champagne, tea bag, salt, and pressure helpfully stemmed the bleeding. Nick expressed gratitude, while Sally insisted it had been a team effort. The Young and the Restless spoilers reveal that Kyle Abbott will face some horror as cell service returns. Claire Newman's Cole Howard revelation will hit hard, so let's talk about how things will go down during the week of July 28 to August 1st. Y&R fans know Kyle and all the other guests have been stranded without a cell signal for what feels like forever. Other than Kane Ashby and Amanda Sinclair, everyone's been cut off from the outside world. Of course, Kyle has missed Claire terribly and will be eager to get some updates on Cole's condition. Since Claire's dad was ultimately transferred back to Memorial, Kyle will assume he's going to get some good news about Cole's recovery. However, Kyle will face a stunning blow once Kane finally fixes the cell service situation. Between all Claire's voicemails and unanswered texts, it won't take Kyle long to realize Cole's health took a nosedive and resulted in his death. Once Kyle gets over the shock, he'll immediately grow concerned about how Claire's been coping without him. Kyle will no doubt wish he'd just stayed home and been there for Claire instead of coming on this trip to play games with Audra Charles. Although Kyle was feeling smug and victorious after calling out Audra's seduction scheme, that suddenly won't matter much in this moment. After cell service is back on, Kyle's priority will be getting in touch with Claire and offering comfort. Kyle will also want to express remorse for coming on this trip and being so far away when Claire was at a low point. You can bet Kyle will feel guilty, especially if Claire admits part of her thought he'd sensed that she needed him and come back sooner. Naturally, Kyle will explain that he's been stuck on a mountain without cell service all this time. Claire should be in for a shock of her own when she hears about Damien Kane's murder and all the other chaos that's been playing out in Nice. Kyle may hold off on telling Claire about his big gotcha moment with Audra and how she was trying to seduce him because of Victor Newman's breakup plot. Maybe Kyle will determine that it'd be cruel to pile anything else on Claire right now when she's already grieving such a great loss. All week long we work, so it's no wonder when the weekend comes, Many like to indulge in a guilty pleasure or two, whether it be buying a new pair of shoes, going on a little getaway, treating ourselves to something delicious. The young and the restless Eric Braeden did just that and shared a photo to prove it. The CBS soap vet made a pit stop at a Van Leeuwen ice cream shop to treat himself to a waffle cone and posted a pic as he gave in to temptation and took a scrumptious taste. "I couldn't resist," Braeden stated, then teased, "Should I take some home to Nikki too?" and asked fans, "What flavor would she like?" His former castmate, Doug Davidson, stopped by the comments and replied, "Any and all, it's the best," as General Hospital's Lisa Lo Cicero added, "Honeycomb." And considering Braeden chose June 20th to treat himself, one fan, Amy Perrin, gave her picks for Nikki. "Think she's a vanilla, or maybe she's a twist swirl girl," then pointed out, "Sunday is National Ice Cream Day, so your post is very timely." And if you missed it, earlier in the month, while Braeden was out and about, he ran into a very close castmate, the actress who plays his on-screen daughter, and shared, "It was so nice to run into Sweet Amelia at a local restaurant." So, if you're in and around the Los Angeles area, you never know. You might just run into the daytime icon actor. Young and the Restless spoilers for next week see some dead bodies to add to the pile. It sounds like Carter and Chance Chancellor both end up dead by the end of next week as the freaky fiesta in France winds down. By the end of this week, we've got Kane Ashby's assistant Carter in some seriously hot water. Chance and Victor Newman caught him lying. They busted his alibi. Carter said he was sleeping, but another staff member saw him lurking. Then, Victor and Chance were grilling him about framing Nick Newman. Creepy Carter said he didn't hide the bloody dagger under Nick's bathroom sink, but nobody knew that's where it was stashed except the person who stashed it, and Chance and the Newman. So, big whoopsie. Carter wouldn't know unless he was framing Nick. Plus, Amanda Sinclair and Kane were just discussing who had access to the recordings to delete the footage. Just the two of them and Carter. What's interesting is Kane thought the killer was after him, and that's why he brought in Chance. We're probably going to get some more twisted revelations next week that hint that Damien was always the target. It seems like there should be more to it, but there's not. It's just a very thin plot in my mind that has somebody completely disposable as the culprit, that has no meat in any of the core storyline. Victor and Chance wanted to keep pushing on Carter, but Kane pulls him out of the room, says he can go to the bar and wait, and Chance and Victor are talking to Kane about him. Now, Kane does not think Carter has it in him to murder anybody. Chance is kind of wondering if Carter would cover for Kane killing somebody, but surprisingly, Victor is right there and thinks Carter killed Damien and did it for Kane, but not necessarily because Kane wanted him to. And again, Kane doesn't think he's capable of it. Amanda runs into Carter at the end of this week, and he tells her Chance and Victor are questioning Kane about their history. He insists to Amanda he'd never do anything to make Kane look bad. So Amanda's prodding. She asks Carter if he's covering for Kane because he killed Damien. Carter says, "No, that's not what's happening." Lily Winters joins and starts going off complaining about Kane. Ever the loyal minion, Carter tells Lily that Kane really loves her. Carter asks Lily to give Kane another chance. That's a hard no. Lily says right as Kane walks up that he disgusts her. Those are going to be famous last words, because of spoilers for next week. Kane tells Amanda he's going to talk to her later, but he really needs to talk to Carter alone. Kane tells Carter, "Look, I know you hid the knife, and he wants him just to come clean. Just tell me the whole truth." Kane says he can see everything that was done related to this murder was by someone who knows the property, knows the maze, knows where the dagger was kept, knows where the booze was stashed to drug it. Kane's asking if Carter wanted to get Damien out of his way to help him. He thinks Carter thought this was a good solution for him to get back with Lily. If you remember, Carter told Victor and Chance he owes Kane. Carter repeats that to his boss, but Kane says, "No, you don't owe me anything." He actually vows to protect Carter. But while Kane and Carter are talking, Chance and Victor are eavesdropping from the hedges. Things get really scary next week, and 100% Carter's the killer. I'm interested to find out if there's more to it, but honestly, it doesn't seem like there is. It just seems that Kane's assistant is a lone wolf. Also, it looks like Lily messed up telling Carter that Kane disgusted her, because next week, spoilers for Young and the Restless have Lily circling back around to where they are. She asks what's going on. Carter pulls a gun, grabs her, takes her hostage, holding the gun to her head. Kane and Chance are right there trying to get Carter to stop. Drop the gun. Lily is screaming her head off. Chance keeps on saying drop the weapon, acting like a cop that he is. Kane's trying to tell Carter, please stop before things get worse on you. Carter doesn't think things can get any worse than they are. Carter's telling Kane he did this all for him. I think it'd be really weird if Carter was actually in love with Kane or something. That would make this slightly more interesting than the thin plot it is with this random killer. Carter is accusing Kane of wanting to lock him up and says he's going to fight his way out of there. It looks like he's going to try and drag Lily away as a human shield, but that's not going to go very well. Chance is trying to push Kane back, get in between them because he is the cop. Things get really bad from there. Amanda is talking to Kane about notifying the French police. He tells Amanda she did the right thing calling them in. Kane asks if the cops are still on the scene, and Amanda tells Kane they're finishing up. They're going to take the bodies to the coroner's office, and Amanda says the case is closed. Kane's in the clear. He doesn't feel like that's what's happening. He feels really bad. He's blaming himself for Lily being taken hostage. Amanda said bodies, plural. So, one's Damien. He's been in the deep freeze in the kitchen for a few days. I'm assuming Carter is probably shot as well, because he's 100% expendable. I'm wondering though if Chance is also shot in the skirmish, and there are 3 bodies at the chateau to be picked up rather than 2 bodies. We all know that these are Connor Floyd's final episodes that we're in right now. He already left Y&R. He started taping over at Days of Our Lives on June 23rd. So, he finished on Young and the Restless around the 3rd week of June, maybe sooner. They usually tape about a month ahead. So, we are nearing the end of his run on Y&R. There's been no sign that they're going to recast. Whether they zip Chance into a body bag or just slide him onto the back burner remains to be seen. We'll have that answer next week. Chance is a true hero, and we've seen him in the past take a bullet to protect Adam Newman. So totally feasible that he would take a bullet to protect Lily or Kane from Carter. Meanwhile, Nikki Newman sits with Nick Newman, who is bloody from losing a fight with an old steamer trunk. I do hope he gets a tetanus shot. All the cell phones come back to life. Looks like Kane took down the blocker. Victor thinks Kane did it because he knows he lost. He's ready to leave and get everybody back home. Kane is sweeping everything off his desk next week in a fit of rage. I do wonder if Victor is wrong about Kane losing everything though. Clearly, he's lost Lily. At least for now. At the end of this past week, Nikki was ready to sign papers to transfer Chancellor over to Kane in exchange for an affidavit stating that Nick is innocent. Amanda had those papers ready to go. Lauren Fenmore was warning Nikki, slow up, don't jump into this. But Nikki was very insistent she needed to. So, we'll see if that transfer of Chancellor went through before the shooting and death drama. That would be really ironic because Victor is long overdue for a comeuppance, and he and Nikki weren't really playing very clean when they got their hands on Chancellor. So we'll see how it goes. Check back soon for our full weekly spoilers video for the week of July 28th through August 1st. In the July 25th, 2025 episode of the CBS soap opera The Young and the Restless, tension rose as Kane pushed Carter to confess to Damien's murder. Nearby, Victor and Chance listened in, hoping to hear the truth. At the same time, Nikki considered giving up Chancellor to save Nick, despite Lauren's strong objections. In the train car, Nick's condition got worse. Billy went to find help, while Sally treated the wound with quick thinking, and Sharon tried to keep Nick calm by talking about their family. Together, they gave Nick a better chance at survival. Later, Kane continued working on Carter for a confession. Meanwhile, Amanda showed up with legal papers offering to clear Nick in exchange for Chancellor. Lauren warned Nikki it could be a trap, but Nikki stayed focused on saving her son. While Billy went to find help for Nick's injury, Sharon stayed with him and tried to keep him calm by talking about their kids and the future. Billy returned with Sally, who used her old carny tricks to stop the bleeding. She cleaned the wound with alcohol and used salt and a tea bag as a bandage. Nick thanked her, but she said it was a team effort. They then got ready to move him to the train. In her train car, Nikki told Lauren she might give Chancellor to Kane to help free Nick. Lauren was shocked and warned that Victor wouldn't like it. Nikki didn't care and said she'd do anything for her kids. Lauren still thought it was risky and told her not to sign anything without talking to Victor first. Kane, on the Young and the Restless, told Carter to go to the bar and said he'd meet him soon. He was annoyed that Victor and Chance had questioned Carter alone, but they still saw him as a top suspect. Carter had access to the booze, knew about the knives, and the murder weapon was found under Nick's sink. At the bar, Carter told Amanda about the questioning and defended Kane, saying he couldn't have killed Damien. When Lily showed up, Carter asked her to give Kane another chance, but she said he disgusted her and walked away. Nikki, on The Young and the Restless, met Amanda with Lauren beside her. She offered Chancellor in return for clearing Nick's name. Amanda had a signed affidavit and ownership papers ready. Lauren was suspicious about how prepared Amanda was and warned Nikki that it felt like a trap. She begged her to wait for Victor, but Nikki stayed firm. She just wanted to protect Nick. Back at the bar in The Young and the Restless, Kane spoke to Carter alone and pushed him about the planted knife. He said Carter had access to too many things tied to the crime and suggested he saw Damien as a threat to Kane's future with Lily. Carter grew emotional and said he owed Kane everything. As he seemed close to confessing, Victor and Chance listened nearby, hoping for the truth. With secrets and loyalty on the line, everything was about to change. The Young and the Restless recap for Friday, July 25th, reveals that Kane Ashby will seek Carter's murder confession, while Nikki Newman decides to sacrifice Chancellor for Nick Newman's sake. After Billy Abbott heads off to find someone with more medical knowledge, Sharon Newman will keep Nick's spirits up with talk about their kids and the future. Meanwhile, Billy will give Sally Spectra updates on injured Nick, so she'll agree to use some tricks she learned while helping the Carnies. Sally will clean Nick's wound with some booze and use a tea bag, as well as salt under a cloth as a bandage. Once the bleeding is under control, Nick will thank Sally for saving him, though she'll insist it was really more of a group effort. While Sharon, Sally, and Billy try to move Nick to the train, Lauren Baldwin will show up at Nikki's sleeping car. That'll give Nikki a chance to rant about Kane and the situation that Nick's in. Nikki will determine that giving Chancellor to Kane could make all this go away. Since Nikki will be in a position to clear Nick's name and score his freedom, she'll insist on moving ahead with a deal. Lauren won't approve of that plan, and she won't think Victor Newman's going to like it either. Nevertheless, Nikki will make it clear that she'd do anything for her children. Next on Friday's Y&R episode, Kane Ashby will tell Carter to head for the bar area and vow to join him there soon. Kane won't appreciate Victor and Chance Chancellor grilling Carter alone, but they'll consider Carter a major suspect considering he knew about the knife being under Nick's sink. There'll be questions about whether Carter might have carried out Kane's orders or taken steps on his own if believed he was protecting Kane. Victor will make it clear that they need to get to the bottom of this. Back with Carter, he'll find Amanda Sinclair in the bar area, so he'll admit that Victor and Chance were questioning him. Carter will insist that Kane is far too compassionate to have committed Damien Kane's murder. When Lily Winters pops up, Carter will also defend Kane to her and insist she should give him another chance. Kane will come along moments later, so Lily will declare that he disgusts her and saunter off. Once Nikki corners Amanda with Lauren by her side, she'll announce that she's willing to give up Chancellor. In exchange, Nikki will want assurance that Nick will walk free and avoid going down for murder. Amanda will have a signed affidavit that gives Nick an alibi, and she'll have paperwork for the transfer of ownership as well. Lauren will act like Nikki's falling into a trap since everything's all ready to go, so she'll push her not to sign anything. Back with Kane, he'll confront Carter privately over the planted knife. Kane will also think there are other things that point in Carter's direction, like the fact that he knew about the knife collection and had access to the private booze stash, as well as the security footage. Carter will get emotional over everything Kane's done for him and what he feels he owes his boss. Kane will suspect Carter went after Damien to remove an obstacle to his happiness with Lily, so he'll play up the trust between them and push for the truth. Around the corner and out of sight, Victor and Chance will eavesdrop as they await Carter's confession. The Young and the Restless spoilers say things are about to get even more wild in Nice, so stay tuned for all the shocking news and heated confrontations.